a sobering truth they never told you. A narcissist is rarely most threatened when you confront them. They are most threatened when you no longer need to. They can tolerate your anger. They can survive your tears. They can even weaponize your pain. But the one thing they cannot endure, the one thing that shakes them at a moral and psychological level, is watching you become happy and confident without them. Not because you hurt them, not because you attacked them, but because your peace exposes something they have spent a lifetime running from. And here is the part many faithful, good-hearted people struggle to accept. Your happiness is not neutral in the presence of a narcissist. It is judgment. Not a judgment you pronounce with words, but a judgment revealed simply by who you become when they no longer rule your inner world. And once you understand why this is true, you will stop trying to explain yourself, stop trying to be understood, and stop mistaking their discomfort for something you need to fix. Why? Your happiness triggers them at a core level. Your happiness does not disturb a narcissist because it is loud, flashy, or boastful. It disturbs them because it is independent. A narcissist's sense of stability is not built on inner peace, moral clarity, or a grounded sense of self. It is built on external regulation, on having someone else orbit around them emotionally. They feel safe when your mood depends on their approval. Your confidence rises and falls based on their reactions. Your sense of worth can be adjusted by praise or punishment. This is why a narcissist can tolerate many versions of you. The anxious you 10, the apologetic you wise, the 9 confused you, the angry you well. All of those versions are still reachable. All of them still react. All of them still signal that the narcissist matters. But happiness, real happiness, is different. True happiness is not excitement. It is not temporary relief. It is not emotional intensity. It is stability, and stability is terrifying to someone who survives by controlling emotional weather. When you are genuinely happy, something subtle but devastating happens. You stop checking the narcissist's face before trusting your own feelings. You stop bracing yourself for their reactions. You stop adjusting your inner life to accommodate their moods. And the narcissist senses this immediately. They may not articulate it. They may not even consciously understand it. But they feel the shift. I am no longer the center of this person's emotional universe. That realization does not register as loss. It registers as threat. Because in the narcissistic mind, independence is not neutrality. It is abandonment. It is rejection. It is exposure. This is why your happiness often provokes strange reactions. Passive-aggressive comments, sudden coldness, dismissive humor, subtle attempts to remind you of your past mistakes. They are not responding to what you did. They are responding to what your happiness represents. Your happiness says, I can exist without needing you to regulate me. And for a narcissist, that sentence strikes at the very foundation of their power. And if happiness alone unsettles them this deeply, then confidence, the kind that no longer seeks permission, goes even further. Confidence removes their access to you. If happiness unsettles a narcissist, confidence does something far more destabilizing. It removes their access to you. Confidence, in its truest form, is not bravado. It is not loud self-assertion. It is not the need to dominate or to be seen. True confidence is quiet authority, the kind that no longer asks for permission to exist. A narcissist survives through access, not physical access, not even social access, psychological access. They need entry into your inner world, your doubts, your hesitation, your need to be reassured, your fear of being misunderstood or rejected. When you lacked confidence, this access was open. They could question your memory. They could reframe your intentions. They could suggest that your feelings were exaggerated, selfish, or wrong. They could subtly guide you towards self-doubt while appearing reasonable, even concerned. And as long as you questioned yourself, they remained powerful. But confidence closes that door. When confidence begins to take root, something profound changes. You no longer feel compelled to over-explain yourself. You stop defending truths that no longer feel negotiable. You trust your own discernment without needing external validation. And this is deeply threatening to a narcissist, because they do not relate to confidence as self-possession. They interpret it as defiance. To them, confidence feels like resistance. It feels like loss of authority. It feels like disobedience, especially if you were once compliant, accommodating, or emotionally available. This is why confident people are often labeled as difficult, cold, arrogant, or changed, not because they have become cruel, but because they have become inaccessible. A narcissist does not fear confrontation nearly as much as they fear irrelevance. When you are confident, you stop reacting on cue. You stop adjusting your tone to keep the peace. You stop absorbing blame that does not belong to you. And perhaps most unsettling of all, you stop needing to be understood by them. This removes the narcissist's primary leverage. They can no longer provoke the same emotional responses. They can no longer destabilize you with subtle criticism. They can no longer pull you into endless explanations meant to exhaust and confuse. Your confidence becomes a boundary they cannot cross. And here is the part that often goes unnoticed. You did not become hostile. You did not become aggressive. You did not seek power over them. You simply became self-governed. For someone who depends on controlling others to regulate their own inner chaos, self-governance in another person feels like a direct threat to survival. This is why confidence often triggers a sudden shift in the narcissist's behavior. Increased criticism, mockery disguised as humor, or sudden withdrawal meant to punish your independence. They are not reacting to arrogance. They are reacting to the realization that they no longer have permission to enter your inner world. And once that access is gone, something inevitable follows. Comparison. Because when they can no longer control you, they are forced to measure themselves against you. Your growth exposes their stagnation. One of the most disturbing experiences for a narcissist is not being criticized. It is being outgrown. You did not wake up one day confident, discerning, and emotionally grounded. Your growth came at a cost. It came through loss, through disillusionment, through long seasons of self-examination when it would have been easier to blame everyone else. Growth requires humility, the kind that looks inward before pointing outward, and this is precisely what narcissists avoid. A narcissist does not grow from the inside out. They adapt from the outside in. They change tone, vocabulary, posture, even belief systems, but their inner structure remains untouched. They replace introspection with image management. They substitute repentance with reinvention. They exchange responsibility for revisionist narratives. So when you begin to grow, truly grow, your presence becomes a mirror they cannot control. Your clarity highlights their confusion. Your stability reveals their volatility. Your ability to sit with discomfort exposes their constant need for distraction. And the most unsettling part is this: you did not grow at them. You did not grow against them. You grew beyond them. This creates a quiet but devastating comparison, not the kind spoken aloud, not the kind you announce, but the kind that happens internally where no defenses remain. They see that you have developed emotional depth, while they remain dependent on external validation. They see that you have learned discernment, while they still rely on manipulation. They see that you can tolerate truth, while they must constantly escape it. This is why narcissists often respond to your growth with minimization. You're not as evolved as you think. You've changed, and not for the better. You're becoming judgmental, permissive, dumbed. But growth is not judgment. It is differentiation. And differentiation dismantles the illusion of superiority a narcissist needs to survive. Your growth strips away the narrative that they are wiser, stronger, or more advanced. It reveals that much of what they presented as confidence was compensation. This is especially painful for narcissists because stagnation is not merely a lack of progress, it is a hidden fear. Deep down, many narcissists sense that something inside them stopped developing long ago. They avoid silence because silence invites that realization. They avoid reflection because reflection threatens exposure. So when you grow, you awaken a truth they have been suppressing. That growth was always possible, but avoided. And this is why your progress is not celebrated by them. It is resented, not because you succeeded, but because you proved that transformation requires courage they were unwilling to exercise. Your growth does not condemn them. It simply removes the illusion that they were ahead of you. And when illusion collapses, envy often takes its place. Why they try to dim your light. When a narcissist realizes they cannot outgrow you, they rarely step back in humility. Instead, they attempt something far more subtle. They try to dim your light, not by open attack, not by obvious cruelty, but by erosion. A narcissist understands something instinctively. If they can weaken your clarity, they can regain access. So they begin quietly. They disguise control as concern. They frame doubt as wisdom. They package criticism as honesty. They may say they are just being real. They may claim they are only trying to help. They may insist they are protecting you from becoming someone you will regret. But beneath these words is a single aim: to reintroduce uncertainty into a mind that is becoming too stable. They rarely tell you outright that your growth threatens them. Instead, they suggest your confidence is excessive. Your boundaries are harsh. Your peace is suspicious. This tactic is particularly effective against people of conscience. Those who value humility, faith, and self-examination are often open to correction. They are willing to ask themselves, "Am I wrong?" A narcissist exploits this virtue. They subtly associate your self-respect with pride, your discernment with judgment, your emotional distance with a lack of love. In doing so, they attempt to hijack your moral compass, because if they can make you feel guilty for becoming whole, you may begin shrinking yourself again, and shrinking restores the hierarchy they depend on. Notice how rarely they attempt to grow alongside you. Notice how seldom they ask what they might learn. Instead, they attempt to redefine growth itself, so that remaining small becomes virtuous. They do not say, "I am uncomfortable with your strength." They say, "You've changed." You contentious. They do not say, "I feel left behind." They say, "You're not who you used to be." And they are right. You are not. But what they mourn is not the loss of closeness. It is the loss of influence. A narcissist does not want your light extinguished entirely. They want it muted just enough to be manageable. They want you bright enough to serve, but dim enough to doubt yourself. This is why the dimming is gradual. They repeat old stories to remind you of past failures. They bring up former mistakes to anchor you to who you were. They emphasize your flaws while ignoring your growth. All of it is designed to pull your attention back inward, not for reflection, but for self-distrust. Yet here is the truth they cannot accept. Light does not need permission to exist. You did not steal your clarity. You did not take confidence at someone else's expense. You earned it through honesty, restraint, and courage. And dimming another person has never elevated anyone. It only reveals fear. When your peace feels like rejection to them, there is a moment that confuses many people of good conscience. You stop arguing, you stop explaining, you stop reacting, and instead of relief, the narcissist becomes more disturbed. This is because your peace is not interpreted as maturity. It is interpreted as rejection. To a healthy person, peace is a sign of resolution. To a narcissist, peace feels like erasure. They have relied on emotional engagement to confirm their importance. Your reactions, whether love, anger, fear, or confusion, once served as proof that they mattered. When those reactions disappear, a terrifying question arises within them. If I can no longer provoke them, do I still exist? This is why your calm feels offensive. Your composure communicates something they cannot tolerate. You no longer have access to me. Is fallof, and access, for a narcissist, is everything. They do not require admiration as much as they require response. They do not need agreement as much as they need engagement. Silence unsettles them because silence offers no reflection. Your peace does not argue back. It does not validate their narrative. It does not confirm their significance. So they reinterpret it. They tell themselves you are cold. They accuse you of indifference. They frame your emotional restraint as cruelty. Not because it is true, but because they cannot accept a reality in which they no longer command attention. This is especially painful for narcissists who once relied on your empathy. They were accustomed to your availability, your willingness to listen, your desire to repair and reconcile. So when you become calm, not withdrawn, not hostile, but centered, it feels like betrayal. They confuse your peace with punishment. In their mind, your quiet becomes abandonment. Your boundaries become rejection. Your stability becomes superiority. And because they cannot tolerate feeling insignificant, they often escalate. They provoke. They stir conflict. They introduce chaos where none exists. Not to resolve anything, but to restore emotional movement. Because movement means control. But here is the truth many people miss. You are not rejecting them. You are returning to yourself. Peace is not a message sent outward. It is a state reclaimed inward. Yet the narcissist cannot recognize this difference. They experience your peace as an indictment because it highlights what they lack: the ability to self-soothe, the capacity to be alone without fear, the strength to exist without constant validation. Your calm confronts them with an inner emptiness they have long avoided, and so, rather than reflect, they react. They may attempt to pull you back emotionally. They may attempt to shame you. They may attempt to paint themselves as the wounded party. But beneath all of it lies one truth. They are panicking not because you harmed them, but because you no longer revolve around them. The loss of control creates internal panic. There comes a moment, often quiet, often unannounced, when a narcissist is forced to confront a truth they have spent years denying. They no longer control you, not your actions, not your emotions, not your inner narrative. This realization does not arrive as insight. It does not produce humility. It does not invite reflection. It produces panic. But this panic is rarely explosive at first. It does not always appear as rage or open confrontation. More often, it shows itself as instability. They begin to oscillate, warm one moment, distant the next, remorseful one day, dismissive the next, engaged, then suddenly gone without explanation. This is not strategy. This is not calculated restraint. It is disorientation. For a long time, control provided the narcissist with coherence. It gave them a sense of structure. It anchored their identity. As long as they could influence your emotions, as long as they could provoke, confuse, reassure, or destabilize, they felt real. They mattered. Control was not merely a preference. It was their form of self-regulation. Unlike emotionally integrated individuals, narcissists do not regulate themselves through conscience, truth, humility, or inner reflection. They regulate through dominance, through reaction, through impact, through being able to move another person's inner world. So when dominance fails, their inner world begins to fracture. This is why, at this stage, many narcissists attempt one final surge of influence. They may suddenly soften. They may become unexpectedly gentle. They may offer apologies that sound emotional, but remain vague, incomplete, or oddly self-referential, not because they have changed, but because panic makes them reach instinctively for whatever once worked. If warmth once pulled you back, they try warmth. If guilt once worked, they try guilt. If distance once provoked fear, they try distance again. And when those tactics fail, they often pivot to disappearance. They withdraw not in peace, but in calculation. Silence becomes a test. Absence becomes a threat. Distance becomes an attempt to provoke anxiety. They hope you will chase. They hope you will question yourself. They hope you will collapse back into uncertainty and reopen the door they once walked through freely. But when you do not, when your peace remains intact, the panic deepens. Because now they must face an unbearable truth. They are not necessary to your stability. This truth exposes the fragility beneath the performance. The narcissist's confidence was never rooted in self-knowledge. It was borrowed from admiration, from reactions, from control. When those sources disappear, fear rushes in to fill the vacuum. This is why their behavior often becomes contradictory during this phase. They may speak of dignity while acting impulsively. They may claim detachment while monitoring you closely. They may assert superiority while clearly unraveling. They are no longer directing events. They are scrambling. And here is the sobering part many people misunderstand. This panic is not caused by cruelty done to them. It is not the result of mistreatment or injustice. It is caused by truth returning to its rightful place. They are being confronted with a reality they avoided for years, that an identity built on control cannot survive independence in others. Your refusal to re-enter chaos does not attack them. It does not punish them. It does not humiliate them. It simply removes the illusion that once protected them from themselves. And when illusions collapse, there is nowhere left to hide. What your happiness reveals about their inner void. When control is gone, when panic has exhausted itself, the narcissist is left alone with something they have avoided their entire life. Not guilt, not remorse, not even fear in the ordinary sense. What remains is emptiness. This is the reality few people are prepared to understand. A narcissist is not driven primarily by ego. They are driven by avoidance. Avoidance of an inner vacancy that feels unbearable when it is finally encountered. Beneath the charm, beneath the confidence, beneath the constant self-presentation, there is often no settled inner life, no stable center, no quiet sense of self that can endure silence. Healthy individuals carry an interior world. They can sit alone without collapsing. They can reflect without disintegrating. They can be still without feeling erased. The narcissist cannot. Silence does not bring rest to them. It brings exposure. Stillness does not bring clarity. It brings anxiety. And this is why your happiness is so deeply disturbing. Your happiness is not loud. It is not performative. It does not demand validation. It is self-contained. Your confidence does not borrow energy from reactions. It does not require dominance, comparison, or applause. It flows from integration, from knowing who you are, where you stand, and what you no longer need to prove. And this contrast is devastating, because when they look at you, they are forced to confront a truth they have spent decades running from. Wholeness is possible, not through control, not through manipulation, not through superiority, but through inner formation. Your happiness reveals that peace can exist without chaos. Your confidence reveals that identity can exist without conquest. Your calm reveals that meaning can exist without performance. And for someone who built their entire survival strategy around distraction, stimulation, and external regulation, this revelation feels like judgment, not judgment spoken aloud, judgment embodied. You do not accuse them, you do not confront them, you do not expose them publicly. You simply exist differently, and that difference exposes the void. This is why narcissists so often chase intensity. They move rapidly from relationship to relationship, from cause to cause, from identity to identity. They fill every silence with noise, every pause with stimulation, every crack with narrative, because if they stop moving, they must feel what is underneath. And what is underneath is not sorrow that leads to repentance. It is absence. Your happiness forces that absence into awareness. They see that you can be alone without unraveling. They see that you can be content without control. They see that you can be grounded without dominating anyone. And this realization produces envy far deeper than jealousy. Jealousy wants what you have. Envy resents that you have it at all. This is why they may attempt to spiritualize their discomfort. They may moralize your boundaries. They may accuse your peace of being selfish or unloving. But these accusations are defenses, because admitting the truth would require something they have avoided their entire life: inner work. You did not create this void. You did not dig it. You did not expose it intentionally. You simply stopped filling it for them. Your happiness does not wound them. It reveals them. And revelation, when repentance is refused, always feels like punishment. What your happiness reveals about their inner void. When control is gone, when panic has exhausted itself, the narcissist is left alone with something they have avoided their entire life. Not guilt, not remorse, not even fear in the ordinary sense. What remains is emptiness. This is the reality few people are prepared to understand. A narcissist is not driven primarily by ego. They are driven by avoidance of an inner vacancy that feels unbearable when it is finally encountered. Beneath the charm, beneath the confidence, beneath the constant self-presentation, there is often no settled inner life, no stable center, no quiet sense of self that can endure silence. Healthy individuals carry an interior world. They can sit alone without collapsing. They can reflect without disintegrating. They can be still without feeling erased. The narcissist cannot. Silence does not bring rest to them. It brings exposure. Stillness does not bring clarity. It brings anxiety. And this is why your happiness is so deeply disturbing. Your happiness is not loud. It is not performative. It does not demand validation. It is self-contained. Your confidence does not borrow energy from reactions. It does not require dominance, comparison, or applause. It flows from integration, from knowing who you are, where you stand, and what you no longer need to prove. And this contrast is devastating, because when they look at you, they are forced to confront a truth they have spent decades running from. Wholeness is possible, not through control, not through manipulation, not through superiority, but through inner formation. Your happiness reveals that peace can exist without chaos. Your confidence reveals that identity can exist without conquest. Your calm reveals that meaning can exist without performance. And for someone who built their entire survival strategy around distraction, stimulation, and external regulation, this revelation feels like judgment. Not judgment spoken aloud, judgment embodied. You do not accuse them. You do not confront them. You do not expose them publicly. You simply exist differently. And that difference exposes the void. This is why narcissists so often chase intensity. They move rapidly from relationship to relationship, from cause to cause, from identity to identity. They fill every silence with noise, every pause with stimulation, every crack with narrative, because if they stop moving, they must feel what is underneath. And what is underneath is not sorrow that leads to repentance. It is absence. Your happiness forces that absence into awareness. They see that you can be alone without unraveling. They see that you can be content without control. They see that you can be grounded without dominating anyone. And this realization produces envy far deeper than jealousy. Jealousy wants what you have. Envy resents that you have it at all. This is why they may attempt to spiritualize their discomfort. They may moralize your boundaries. They may accuse your peace of being selfish or unloving. But these accusations are defenses, because admitting the truth would require something they have avoided their entire life. Inner work. You did not create this void. You did not dig it. You did not expose it intentionally. You simply stopped filling it for them. Your happiness does not wound them. It reveals them. And revelation, when repentance is refused, always feels like punishment.